I think we'll give it, and we'll give everyone, I'll just pause that for a minute, we'll give everyone. Hi everyone, this is Julie Lindsay, and thanks for coming into this session. This session is called Learn with the World, and you can actually find it online at tinyurl.com, Learn with the World, which is a Google presentation, so you can grab the slides, and particularly the links from the slides. There are a few links, not that many. But let's move into this. Yes, I've started the recording, and thanks to Brian for being in the room as my backup. Thanks also to our sponsors and supporters, and thanks to Steve, of course, Steve Hargan, for his work putting these conferences, this particular conference we're here now, together, and thanks to you for being in the audience. Let's see where we are. I'm right over here on the east coast of Australia, and it is 1 AM in the morning. I think I need my head red, but that's why I'm not putting my camera on. I have the liberty of not putting my camera on because it's a very odd time. Anyway, that's fine. I need the tools. Oh, sorry. Where are they? That one, that's the pen. Try that, Peggy. Did I get it right? Yes, excellent. Thanks. Okay, so we've got some Europe. Great. Okay, that looks great. Thanks so much for coming in once again. All right, let's keep going here. Slides are loaded. All right, so the full title of the presentation is Learn with the World, Global Connection and Authentic Collaboration. So I really want to share some ideas and actions to change the learning paradigm in the context of, as we just heard in the last session from Pat, alternatives to schooling or homeschooling, or getting our head around some different ideas for the way forward for the future. So this is me. I know quite a few of you in the room already know who I am, but that's me, and that's where I live in Australia, just in that part of the globe now. I'm doing different things in different places, and probably about.me, Julie Lindsay is the shortcut bio where you can find out some more about me. And a little bit about my global journey, just to give some context to my thoughts for this session. We were out of Australia for 15 years. Our original base was Melbourne, and we went to 5 different countries. You can see them on the map there: Zambia, Kuwait, Bangladesh, Qatar, and China, in that order. And it was a great experience for me and my family to do this. And it certainly framed this next part of my life now that I'm back in a place called Ocean Shores, which is a wonderful place to live after living in so many different places in the world, challenging places, big cities. I'm now living in a very small community along the beach on the east coast of Australia, and thoroughly enjoying this newfound lifestyle. But my family and I did travel a lot. We crossed many borders. By doing that, I think we enjoyed an enhanced understanding of life and culture. My daughter was 3 when we left. She is now 20. And so she grew up, she did all of her schooling outside of her home country. So from that point of view, we actually call her a third culture kid. And this is an actual term, third culture kid. Some of you may know it. I know Tosca's in the room. She's probably heard it because she's working in the international school system. So that means, she has spent all of her formative years outside of the home country of her parents. So she has quite a different perspective on life. When we come back and she meets with her cousins who have been through more traditional schooling, or a traditional approach to schooling, pretty much the same school, the same primary school, then the same high school all of their lives. It's quite a different version of the world. She has quite a different version of the world. So I think the point of me telling you this story, of course, is that even though we've had this experience and this opportunity to travel, and Violet, my daughter's name's Violet, was in many different schools and different cultures, not always expat international schools. She actually went to quite a few national, what we call national international schools, where she was the only expat student in the class on quite a few occasions. But even though we've done that, it's still possible for people now, of course, to have and to gain a global perspective and a global education by being in their home country. And this is quite a feature of what, or this is an underlying context of what I want to share with you today, that you don't actually have to travel necessarily. You can still design and enjoy a global education through knowing how to connect with other people and learn from other people around the world. Just as one example, this is an interesting woman who read 196 books in 1 year, and these were from 196 different countries. And you know, I think this development of global competence through this reading is just amazing. And you know, we need to ask ourselves, by reading books, does this help us cross borders? And I believe it does. To what extent it does? Well, if you put it hand in hand with some international travel, then of course your global competence is starting to become a bit more rounded. But it's certainly a great start. And of course we can learn a lot from books. We do still have a lot of books, e-books or physical books around us as well as part of our learning progression. We also, you know, when we're talking about global competence, we need to think about, well, what is it we trying to learn, or perhaps from the teacher's point of view, what is it we're trying to teach or encourage our students to learn, or from a parent's point of view, what is it we want our children to know about the world, and what are some of these skills that are going to be important for the future. And this is something from the Pearson group, and it's a website, thelearningcurve.pearson.com. Thanks, Peggy, for being my back channel guru there. Thanks for that, putting the URLs in. So these are some of the skills that are deemed important, and I do agree with this whole idea of, you know, having leadership skills, digital literacy, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, global citizenship, etc. Being able to work in a team. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter what learning stage you're up to, for example, you know, I'm in my mid-50s now, and I'm halfway through my educational doctorate, and I still think about all of these things all the time, and the skills that I need to still continue my learning journey, and how I can do that. So, having given that little social entrepreneurship, yes, Tosca, absolutely, I agree. So having given that little introduction, so this next, the rest of the presentation will be framed around 3 different parts. So I want to talk particularly about connected learning and global digital citizenship, and then I want to look at sort of collaborative learning, and then share some resources with you to get started. And I've left some spaces for some conversation or some responses in the chat as well, so that it's not all my voice or all my input as well, because this is a community. You know, we're a small community here in this presentation, and I welcome your conversations and opinions as well. All right, so let's start with connected learning and global digital citizenship and how important that is. So the question is, you know, what is connected learning? What does it mean to connect with somebody else? Now, if we're in a more traditional learning environment, of course, we're connected through sitting next to someone in a classroom, perhaps, or we're connected by, perhaps in the more online world, we're connected through virtual synchronous meetings like this. So we need to look at, you know, what sort of learning styles are needed for these different types of connections, what sort of technology is needed, and how is learning affected or impacted through these types of connections. That's getting our brain thinking about this. And this little diagram shares a lot of what I think about connected learning in terms of connected learning being flat, and there was actually some conversation, some of you I know were in the last session, talking about, flattening the learning, flattening the classroom walls, or removing the walls, or making them invisible, or the walls of learning. So, I equate connected learning with this sort of flat learning, where you're able to bring the world in to your learning environment, your learning needs, and also to put yourself out there. It needs to be a two-way exchange. And of course, some of these other bubbles that are subsets of, flat connected learning is the superset or the essential infrastructure. It also includes this inquiry-based learning, blended learning and flipped learning, which is a form of blended learning, blending the online with the face-to-face or the online with the real learning. Project, challenge-based, collaborative culture of sharing, etc. Those terms that you may have heard of are all part of being a flat connected learner. In other words, what I'm saying is you can't really do any of these well or effectively or successfully unless you are a flat connected learner. And of course, these other bubbles revolving around this involve having knowledge and facility with Web 2.0, having leadership to be able to affect flat connected learning, or leadership yourself to able to embrace it. Looking at new pedagogies. What are the new pedagogies that are emerging or have emerged because of being able to connect with other parts of the world in different ways, or connect with different learners in different ways? And of course, the whole learning design is important as well. So, connected learning, flat learning, and my premise is that we do need to flatten the learning. The hierarchy must be flattened. So rather than, and I know you've heard this before, rather than the knowledge being fed down, say from the teacher or the expert, being able to communicate across. So we all like to think of ourselves as knowledgeable in certain areas or experts in certain areas, and I think that's important to have certain knowledge where you can say, well, I am knowledgeable or an expert in this area, but then to be able to communicate this across in a way where the learners are in a community and there's sort of equal ability to contribute and to ask questions and receive responses, etc. And with the freedom and the security that you are building that more knowledge together. And of course, we need to build strategies for meaningful connections. And keeping in mind, of course, that this is the homeschooling conference, I am talking about how to build strategies for connecting if you are at home or in an alternative learning environment, perhaps a very small community where you're learning together or learning in a more isolated environment. So how can we build these learning strategies between what you're learning or need to learn and other learners? And just, this is something I talk about quite a bit as well, this whole taxonomy of global connection and having these different modes of being able to learn. So for example, and the level 1, intraconnection, being able to connect, and I've put there within your own class, but of course being able to connect within your own environment in terms of what portals are you using, what is your workflow, how are you connecting with the learning that you need to connect with yourself, and how does that work? And then of course, how are you connecting with other people in perhaps a more localized vicinity? Are you joining level 3 managed global connections as part of your learning? Are you joining with other students who are connecting themselves with perhaps some other management in the background? And as a student, perhaps a more mature student, though we're talking about upper primary school right through middle school and high school, are you able to connect with other students and manage your own learning for this extended or flat learning, connected learning ability? Sorry, I'm going here, sorry. It is 1:15 in the morning, just for those who just joined us. It is a little late here in Australia, but I'll keep going. All right, so, and of course, when we talk about connected learning, you know, one of my favourite quotes is, the next best thing to being wise oneself is to live in a circle of those who are. And so think about that when you're joining learning communities, and remember the flattened hierarchy, the learning across rather than learning down or up. And this is just an example of the type of community that is possible, where students are in mixed groups. There are expert advisors, keynoters, judges, etc., teachers and pre-service teachers, etc., and how this can become a learning hub. In fact, some people use the word hub for this, or learning community, or community of practice. So think about the communities that you learn in, and how much variety they have, or could have. Okay, and so of course we talk about connection in terms of using pull technology. So this is where the technology comes in. How can we harness or leverage technologies to support connected learning? And these are some of the ways that we can do it. Social media, of course, is very important. And there are two ways. I mean, aggregation is bringing the information to you. So if you are online, if you're learning online, if you're connecting with people via the internet, how do you bring information to you that you need? And then how do you syndicate your information? How do you put your information out there? Using social media, social bookmarking, these Web 2.0 apps that allow us to share and interact with other people all the time. And you know, we talk about connection and of course communication. So two types, synchronous and asynchronous. And of course, you know, traditional learning is separated by location and separated by time. But when we talk about connected or flat learning, we are unified by the internet. And it's really important to remember that this asynchronous communication is the bridge. And you know, when we start to talk about connected learning, global collaboration projects, etc., start to walk along that bridge, because it's not about real-time connections all the time. It's not about Skyping with other people in different parts of the world, because you just aren't able to do it all the time. You need that bridge of asynchronous communication. And this is just an example of, for example, at the top here, the red arrow is showing some activity. This is a Ning, or a learning community, using a particular piece of software, online software called Ning, ning.com. And these are students in a project, and they're communicating asynchronously, updating their profiles, putting in a handshake, which is an introduction, etc. And then, of course, the blue arrow is pointing to a real-time chat facility, which is available within this Web 2.0 tool as well. So you can blend communication methods to, once again, keep flat connected learning alive and viable. So some questions, and I welcome your contributions in the chat here. How connected are you as a learner? I think if you've made your way into this meeting, I congratulate you and welcome you, of course, very warmly. What else do you do as a connected learner? Are you using social media? How are you connecting yourself with other learners around the world? And if you're a parent or a homeschooled student in the room, perhaps share with us some things that you're doing. Peggy says chat and back channel tools. Yes, which is what we're doing now. Sharing links, sharing ideas through the back channel. Thanks, Brian, for putting that Ning link in. That's great. Okay, I'll keep going. Anything that comes to mind, throw in the chat in terms of what you're doing. Do you follow any Twitter hashtags in particular? Are there other online conferences that you attend? How are you building your connections? I just want to divert into some words about digital citizenship. And we're talking about, this is a traditional sort of quote from Mike Ribble and Gerard Bailey, when they say the norms of behaviour with regard to technology use. So this is the standard, you know, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about digital citizenship. But, you know, I'm talking about skills, habits and attitudes, while when learning while digital. And this is really important because as you start to make those connections and start to use technology for learning, digital citizenship goes hand in hand with things that you're doing. This is really interesting. This is relatively new, globaldigitalcitizen.org. Take a look at it. Andrew Churches and Lee Crockett are the two educational experts that are developing this non-profit group that is based in Canada. And of course they talk about global digital citizenship, and they talk about these facets of it, or the characteristics of it, which is personal responsibility, global citizenship, digital citizenship, altruistic service, and environmental stewardship. And there's some great there are some great resources on this website to share the different learning fluencies of which global digital citizenship or citizen is the scaffold to that. And this is something that was developed for also looking at digital citizenship in a slightly different way, taking the sort of usual things that people think about in terms of, oh, we need to be safe and private, we need to respect copyright and be legal in terms of not downloading what we shouldn't, etiquette and respect, etc., literacy and fluency, but looking at them in terms of areas of awareness. In particular, the global, the cultural, and the social. And this is something that is becoming more prevalent now. You know, we really can't talk about digital citizenship unless we talk about having the cultural and global awareness that it affords us as we connect with the world. And Tosca, I'm seeing your point there, and I agree with you as well. And I just use them all sort of interchangeably now. I say global digital citizen, or I say digital citizen, or I say citizen, and I think it's fair enough to be able to do that now. Clearly, yes, Ning is a paid service, and it has been a paid service for quite a few years now. I love it though. I run 3 Nings, and I just still love it as a great portal and a platform for connecting and building a community. And of course, digital citizenship, I always like to talk about taking action, not just learning about digital citizenship, or how to be a digital citizen or a global digital citizen, but learning how to take action while you're doing that. And these are just some examples. This is not a particularly clear slide. There's a project that I run called Digiteam Project, and students learn about digital citizenship, but also design an action project. So, for example, using Minecraft to teach etiquette and respect, or sharing strategies to overcome cyberbullying as a series of lessons for younger students. So think about how you can not just be passively saying, well, I know about Creative Commons, I know about how to be safe online, I know how to set my Facebook settings, etc. But think about what actions can you take to share this knowledge and share good digital citizenship with other people. And one thing we could say is to be a digi-learner, or a digi-parent, or a digi-teacher, and this involves knowing about the technology and not making perhaps this may not be the right word, but not making excuses for not knowing it, which I know some educators are prone to do. But actually, finding out yourself, what can it do, what does it do, but at the same time monitoring and being engaged. And when we're learning alongside young people, we do need to monitor and we do need to be engaged that things are going the way we would expect them to go when we're working in online spaces. But at the same time, avoiding the fear factor and being able to make a difference, being able to use the digital resources to make a difference to our lives and to others as well. And of course, to model legal wisdom and choose our own copyright. All right, so the questions are here: do you think that you're a good global, or are you a global digital citizen? And what are you doing in your learning environment to foster global digital citizenship? I'm going to throw the microphone open. If anyone would like to ask anything or make a comment at this stage, you're most welcome, or throw something into the chat. some thoughts into the chat. Peggy says she's very dependent on technology. Isn't it the strangest feeling when you didn't bring your phone? I know. And I go to the United States and I still don't have a SIM card for my phone in the States, but when I'm in the States or other countries, I'm usually really close to Wi-Fi all the time, so it doesn't bother me so much. Tosca says she talks. Tosca, you can come and talk to me. Tosca, go ahead, thanks. Tosca, would you like to share something with us? Okay, well, I'll save you till the end then. Oh, okay, isn't it? Oh. All right, I'll keep going for the minute. Peggy says anything we can do to make connections with global participants really helps us to learn more about other cultures, and that's so true, Peggy. So true. Thank you for that. All right, let me get to part 2, which is collaborative learning. So if we're connected with the world, what are we going to do with the world? Right? If I make a connection with China, for example, what am I going to do with China? I can Skype. I can ask China to join my Ning, and we can perhaps have a little conversation. But then what? What are we going to do? How can we reach deeper learning with these tools that we have and with the objectives? Oh, I'll need my permission. Tosca, sorry about that. Try again. I'll break again for you to have your say. Over to you.
That's okay. I'm super happy to be here again. I appreciate you guys always hosting these amazing events that I learned so much from. Your question was about being a global digital citizen, I believe, if you can go back to that slide. And I think part of my new role at the New International School of Thailand at NIST is to work as a digital learning coach, and something that's exciting for me because it's a new role. I've been an early years teacher for 14 years. So upskilling teachers in technology like social media and Skype Classroom and all of these different kind of interfaces that we can level the playing field, flatten the classroom, and to connect with classrooms outside of our school. So not only just making sister schools, but even just because we have this huge international community, because we've taught all over the world, and leveraging those experiences for our students, I think is really important.
Thanks, Tosca. It absolutely is leveraging those experiences. I like that term. Thanks for that. And of course, once you're connected then, what are we going to do? We have to build collaborative learning. And so just some ideas in terms of what collaboration is. I mean, yes, of course it's something we do already, but are we doing it well? And how are we doing it? And how are we going to now enhance it by using technology? I view collaboration as more than cooperation. It's actually building something together, not getting in a group, you know, the traditional sort of teamwork where you do that bit and you do that bit, and we'll sort of put it together somehow towards the end. And of course you can align it with standards, but you know, collaboration is more than that. Brian says he uses the WizIQ classroom. Thanks for that, Brian. Yeah, I haven't had a lot to do with WizIQ, but I do believe and know that it is very good. So, you know, this brings me to this, you know, learning about really leads to learning with. Of course, this is your typical sort of Skype call, classroom to classroom, but you start with learning about, but then you need to move to learning with and determining what this looks like. And it can look many different ways, of course, in different contexts. And of course, you know, this individual creation needs to lead to collaborative learning. And this is an image of a conference that I ran in Beijing a few years ago. Students in teams, they didn't know each other. They were mixed teams that hadn't even met till the day before they did this, and here they are collaborating and drawing storyboards for their video, etc. And of course, collaborative learning leads to intercultural understanding, being able to not just connect, but to build something together, to collaborate on something together, and to understand how other people approach collaboration, how they think, what they can bring in terms of their own knowledge, and then build that together, build something new together. So, you know, we say, why bother with global collaboration? And I'm going to say right up front that global collaboration is not necessarily easy. It is easy now, of course, to connect. It's easy to open up Skype and find a partner classroom and have a chat. But to move to actual global collaboration is a hurdle that is often difficult. But we do it because we do value global competency. We do value international mindedness, which is an IB term that I know Tosca will understand. We do want to be culturally aware and understand that everyone is not like me, but everyone is like me in some way. And we do align it with this term glocalization, which has come largely from Thomas Friedman in the writings that he's done. And it means to think think global but act local. So to take, and that's just a very simplified version of this, is to take the best of the world and to bring it back to your local context. And I always think of the digital citizenship action projects when I think about this, the students who have connected with different parts of the world to hear what other people think about digital citizenship and then bring those ideas back into their community action project. How can they support and improve their community through this extended knowledge that they have now? So, of course, you know, challenges to global collaboration, whether you're doing a homeschooling or an IB school or a government school or wherever you are in the world, whatever system you're in, you know, once you've connected, it's a wow experience, but you need to go beyond the wow. You need to be determined to engage learners and leaders. And it's about shifting traditional pedagogies, which I haven't got a lot of time to talk about in this presentation. That's a whole other thing we could talk about. But having realistic expectations as well, you know, understanding that technology is only as good as it works. So to have certain expectations in certain time frames often isn't realistic. So we need to, you know, it's all about design as much as anything else, designing the global collaborative experience. So I think, you know, when we talk about connected learning, the future does include collaboration, and it includes collaboration online. Right? This is the way that we're doing it. So we need to ask ourselves, how are we supporting this? How are we integrating this into the learning experiences that we design and facilitate or activate? And what's the story here? And I like to think of spaces for global learning. I'm feeling challenged. Good talk. Good start to the year, right? Thanks for that. So if you think about spaces for global learning, so we need a community network, and as I said, I do like the Ning. I also use Edmodo for younger students, and there are other ways to build community as well. Moodle, for example, is another way. So once you have that community, then you need to build collaborative learning experiences around that community. And then, of course, the goal is to interact and share with the world. Right? So collaborate, and then, of course, interact and share with the world beyond that. So this is this sort of, where are the spaces where we're interacting and sharing? Well, that could be, as I said before, Twitter, it could be Digo in terms of social bookmarking, it could be Facebook, it could be LinkedIn, a number of different places. Of course, it does involve synchronous and asynchronous learning modes. I'll just keep going here. So, you know, if we are going to learn with the world, we need to be questioning and clear in our own mind what the main benefits are. Who can you collaborate with? And, in other words, make global connections with. What can you create together? In other words, leave a legacy. And I quite like this word legacy, because it is about now leaving a digital legacy. It's not about the paper assignment going in the rubbish bin at the end of the school year, because now students can build digital portfolios. They can build collaborative digital portfolios. They can show individual work, they can show collaborative work, they can show, remember that slide before with all the different global competencies, they can show that very clearly through the spaces that they build, and they can share their legacy with, and this is a generational thing as well. They can share it as they move through their schooling with the younger and the older generation. And also, what are some actionable outcomes to change the world? Because we're not here just for our own personal learning. We're here also to impact the world and to change the world. That's something I feel quite strongly about. So, what is the global impact that's going to come out of these connections and collaborations? So, our collaborative learning challenge. And if we believe that technology-infused collaborative learning is important, the question is, how can we support collaborative learning? And what are you doing to support collaborative learning? If you're building curriculum, if you're building a plan, a homeschooling plan, or a plan for the classroom, or a plan for teacher education, how are you supporting collaborative learning? And what are you doing? Would anyone like to throw open the microphone? It's still on. I haven't turned it off. If anyone would like to make a comment at this point, or throw some examples into the chat there. Peggy says she hosts the Classroom 2.0 live webinars to support collaborative learning, sharing among educators. Brian's put some links in there that look interesting. Great, okay. Let me keep going here. Collaborative gaming, oh, excellent. There is some of that going on, there is. Absolutely. Talk to Peggy Shee about what she does.
Okay. I would love to actually, sorry, just to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Because I think that that's one of the things that I'm bringing to the table at our school is gaming in secondary had been banned last year, and so we're trying to make a space for parents and students to game together. And I think it would be cool to have collaborative gaming that was online, so you could bring in people from around the globe. And that would be a really awesome way to try and leverage that technology. Anyway, sorry.
No, absolutely, Tosca, and thanks for saying that, because it is possible and it is being done. It's not something that I'm directly involved with at the moment, but it's certainly out there. And Peggy Shee and Bron Stuckey are great people to look up for that as well. I'm just going to whiz through some very quick examples from Flat Connections global projects, and I've got other resources to share as well. But just very quickly, if you're not quite sure what this looks like, there's one project that I run called Flat Connections Global Project, and this is last semester we had 500 students, 20 classrooms, 6 countries, etc. I'm not going to read all that out, but it was quite a large project with a lot of students. We have a new project starting in September as well, flatconnectionsglobalproject.net, actually takes you to the NING, the portal there. But we built a community. It starts with the teachers as a community, and then the students, and then the extended community, which is our expert advisors, keynote, pre-service teachers, etc. Content, of course, when you're looking at collaboration, content, what is the context and the content? This is a project about emerging technologies, so we look at the Horizon report. It's also about the future of learning and education, and we have some other influencers there, including David Price, who is from the UK. He's got a book called Open that we look at, students look at, teachers look at that for global issues, etc. That's the NING portal, so that's our building our community, students and teachers together on the NING. Then we move to a wiki. Our collaborative work is on a wiki. It's another important tool. Students in teams publish an ebook. And that's a really good question, Peggy, how to involve parents. And that's something that hasn't happened a lot, I must admit, because this project so far has run in a more traditional manner in terms of classrooms in schools being involved. But I would love to see homeschool people involved in projects like this, or this one. There are other projects out there, and parents, of course, would be part of that extended community in terms of being responding to and encouraging student activity on the Ning, being part of discussion conversations, being peer reviewers or reviewers of work, and just don't forget the flattened learning environment, not the knowledge down, but the knowledge across. I think it would be a great opportunity for homeschoolers to be part of this type of project, yes. An outcome of this particular project is each student creates a final video, a final personal video, and shares it with the others as well. So that's that one. That's at the high school level. Now, of course, there's the K-2 level, which is the little kids. We have a project called Building Bridges to Tomorrow, which is a really great starter project for students to start to realise that there is a world out there beyond their immediate family and community, and to start to connect, and we do more sort of synchronous work here. There's one little thing, we do a view from our windows, and you can see here the classroom from China and the classroom from Virginia, USA, grade 1, 2 students sharing images. We used a tool called Ublisher there, and that this classroom teacher can, or wherever you are, homeschool, etc., can use these images then to compare and contrast and start conversations, etc. Malaysia and Colorado there. If you go to, the e-books, the one I was talking about before, I'm going to whiz back here. If you go to flatconnections.wikispaces.com, you will find some links to all the videos and the e-books there. Okay, and to the Ning as well. Okay, so that's then there's the upper elementary project, A Week in the Life. Students using Edmodo, doing what we call handshakes, which is introductions. This is a student from USA and India. This boy actually goes to Choitheram International School, so I think he was in America, so they're talking about the love of pizza, etc. So living in two different cultures, perhaps coming from the same culture in this particular example. But just, a way for students to share what they like, what they do. We put students into mixed teams. They use VoiceThread to gather images around certain themes and to build conversations, because VoiceThread records comments and students' voice. So they share their ideas based on the multimedia that they gather. This particular project, we're reframing to be a global issues project this semester. So students will actually explore global issues and share across the world different issues as well. And of course, student summits are very important in global collaboration. This is actually a grade 4 boy from Nepal presenting in a summit. This was a couple of years ago, presenting his learning from that particular project. Another one that we do is global youth debates, and of course this idea of debating online and debating across the world can be taken and used in a lot of different ways. The project that we run is we have asynchronous debates with students in different parts of the world, and then we bring them together in the end for a final synchronous debate using Blackboard Collaborate. And it's just wonderful to hear the different accents. We use VoiceThread, and the different ideas and the different influences, and bringing together that that collective knowledge that comes out through a formal debate. Thanks, Peggy. Yeah. All right, so that's just some ideas to show you. I just wanted to do that as an example of what is possible, and now just moving into some other resources to get started. So when you do want to get started with, and I'm talking now about connected learning that really leads to this whole global collaborative piece. So you do want to explore existing networks and projects. And find like-minded learners, and design outcomes. If you're a teacher, design outcomes. If you're homeschooling, design what global experience will the homeschooling students have this year, and then how will it evolve into something perhaps a bit different next year, etc. There are different experiences out there, and there can be an evolution. And of course, managing for success is important as well. So where to start to find projects? Well, flatconnections.com is one start. The Global Classroom, I know, Peggy, you put the URL in the window earlier for the Global Classroom, which is a wonderful community of global educators doing all sorts of wonderful things. I encourage you to take a look at their wiki and what they're doing. There's iEarn. iEarn has been around for a few decades now. and they have what is called learning circles and other global projects, very international, very global. Another little one that's run by a colleague, friend Lisa Parisi, our Global Friendships. This is a little smaller, but it's lovely how the way Lisa brings people together and they do projects across schools and across countries as well. So that's a good one to look at. And I encourage you to join networks. Flatconnections.net is an educator network which has lots of educators, same as the Global Education Conference. Educators looking for global partners, etc. Taking IT Global is another one to look at. It's a big portal, lots of people there reaching out, wanting to build communities, and of course ePals. And I've gone through some very standard, very stable and well-known resources there to help you get started. And just in terms of tools, now I've mentioned quite a few, but if you're looking for synchronous, like we're doing now, Blackboard Collaborate, Skype of course, Fuse, I encourage you to look at Fuse, fuse.com. You can get a free room for up to 25 people, and it's a great tool. Google Hangout of course is becoming more popular. Asynchronous to build communities and asynchronous experiences. We've got Edmodo, Ning, VoiceThread, Wiki, Google of course, all types of Google Docs, Google presentations are wonderful. You can build asynchronously, you can even build synchronously of course with a number of the Google apps. And then of course if you're looking for collaborative tools, some of these work really well. WeVideo, collaborative video. Lucid Press, some of the students in the project built ebooks. It was a little bit experimental, not completely successful last semester. We're working on it, piloting it, moving ahead next semester with something that hopefully will be a bit more successful. But Lucid Press, we were trying to find a tool where you could co-create an ebook. And if anyone's got any ideas, because we used Small, which isn't really an ebook, and we used Lucid Press, and we're going to try again this semester to find something. Padlet, of course. Let's make one. Yes, Tosca, I know, that's what we need. We need to make out these tools. Poplet is a collaborative brainstorming tool. Wiki, of course, Google Sites. And Call Tools for Schools is still one of my favourite websites for finding a number of tools. Oh, good, Peggy. Okay. All right, I might reach out to you if I need any help this coming semester as we kick off the project again. That's good to know. Okay, so I think the message is, we can work with the world, we can connect and work with the world, and it's all possible. It just takes, sometimes a bit of planning, a bit of thinking, but it's possible, but it's also imperative. So just want to leave you with three things to take away, three quick messages. And the first one is that learning does not happen in isolation. So even though we may not be in an environment where we have lots of people around us physically, we still don't have to learn in isolation. And technology makes this possible now, of course. And we do want to connect students for collaborations. I encourage you to connect students, connect learners, not just students, teachers as well, parents, any learner, any age. Make those connections and come to these types of, this is a collaborative presentation in many respects, and learn from each other. And this other message, and I haven't spoken really a lot about this today, but we need to shift content to context. And we are still, in many ways, in most systems, educational systems around the world, we're still too content heavy. And we need to really build context. What's the context of our learning experience? Who are we learning with? Not necessarily what are we learning about, and what are we creating with the people we're learning with? And who are we sharing it with? This is a book that I've co-authored, just to let you know that it's available from Amazon, that you may be interested in taking a deeper look at the sort of global collaborations that I've been involved with in the last few years. And there's some more websites, once again, flatconnections.com. And there's me on my beach. There we go. So that's all I have for this presentation, and I welcome, we've got a couple of minutes for comments or, thank you, Tosca, or any extra resources you'd like to throw in the window. Any final comments? Please grab the microphone if you wish to. Thanks, Keely. Great. Okay, well, thanks so much for staying with me and seeing this through to the end. I appreciate that. And thanks, Tosca. Thanks, Peggy. Oh, great. Okay, grab that link. I do wish you all a great homeschooling conference for the presentations that are left. Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm just going to put the link in again. This presentation, if you joined or didn't hear it at the start, these slides are available here. tinyurl.com, Learn with the World. Is that what you meant? Yes, okay. Thanks, Peggy. Okay, I'm going to say good night. It's 2 o'clock almost in the morning here in Australia. I've got my next meeting at 9 o'clock, so I'm going to say good night and go and get some sleep. But have a great day if you're on the other side of the world, and I look forward to seeing you again in a similar or different environment. Bye for now. Thanks.